All right. So welcome everyone to our Heroes for Health grant information session. I'm Christine Cabildo, the Health Promotion Coordinator with the Wellness Supports team here on campus. And I have a lovely co-presenter here.
Hi, I'm Kian. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm an intern with Wellness Supports. We'd just like to take a moment before we get started to acknowledge that we're located on Treaty 6 territory and respect the histories, languages, and cultures of First Nations, Métis, Inuit, and all First Peoples of Canada, whose presence continues to enrich our vibrant community.
Yes. So since we are recording our session today, if you have any questions during the presentation, please pop it into the chat. We'll get to that during our Q&A portion today. The Q&A portion will not be part of the recorded video today. All right, okay. So our hope today is to inspire you to take action and create an initiative to make our campus healthier and to guide you in submitting a standout grant proposal. So for our session today, we'll go over what the Heroes for Health grant is, eligibility guidelines, grant criteria and application form, some adjudication proposal selection, deadline, and some next steps for you. Over to you, Kian.
Awesome. So I'll just go over a brief overview of the grant itself. So Heroes for Health is a grant that aims to support you in taking action on ideas that enhance the health and well-being of our campus community. This grant would not be possible without our collaborating partnerships with campus and community recreation, as well as human resources, health, safety, and environment. Together, we are the three partners that adjudicate the Heroes for Health projects. Heroes for Health encompasses two types of grants, the community and the staff grant. So the community grant is our larger grant, which focuses on the whole campus community. And although students make up the largest portion of our campus, campus grants are also encouraged to benefit or involve staff and faculty as well. And we'll touch more on this later in our partnership section of the application form. The staff grant, which is a little bit smaller, is meant to specifically benefit staff groups. And although staff are the target group of this category, projects that benefit or involve other groups on campus will be considered. So if applying for a staff grant, we encourage you to think and reflect on what makes a healthy workplace. Awesome. So what are we looking for? Firstly, fresh and out-of-the-box ideas that contribute to campus health and well-being, projects that showcase partnerships of students, staff, and faculty, and campus-wide initiatives. The biggest piece of advice we can give you is to just be as creative as possible. So an example of one of our previously awarded initiatives was a group of librarians and campus partners who were able to produce a book that is a compilation of works by students with their experiences from 2020 during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. It was created to build resilience and foster connection at a time where we felt disconnected from one another. Awesome. So what are we not looking for? So initiatives within a department's regular operations, research, or professional development, or projects that are already running or have been previously funded or duplicate existing programs we have on campus. So for example, over the past couple of years, we funded a couple wellness spaces on campus, and adjudicators and funding partners hesitate to continue to provide funding for applicants wanting to create more wellness spaces on campus, since this type of project is previously funded and they're still in operation. So points like this and more eligibility information can be found on our website. And as well, I'll link in the chat the database of our previously funded projects, so you can take a look at that as well. I'll do that in a moment. Okay, before we share any tips with you on how to apply, let's talk about what we mean by a healthy campus community. So from the Healthy University Strategic Plan, we recognize that creating a healthy campus community means that we're working towards integrating health into our campus culture to foster healthy working, living, and learning environments for students, faculty, and staff. The Healthy University Plan was released in 2017 with the vision, thriving people in a caring community. So what do we do with this information? So each of you will have your own definition of health, and that is great. The way you define health, your experiences on campus are what we're hoping that you use as a driving factor in putting your idea forward in your application. The grant is intended to support your ability in sharing your ideas for ways you'd like to see our campus change. Whether you're taking this view from a student position, faculty, or staff member, there's different factors that impact your success and contributions back to the community. All right, let's get started on going through the application form. Oh, sorry, this is Christine's slide. I'm just so excited.
No,
I'll
that is
pass it
all
back.
good, Kian. So as Kian mentioned, we will be going through the application form with you today. We'll highlight for you what the adjudicators are looking for, some tips and tricks for how to create a standout grant proposal, and yeah, that's pretty much what we'll cover. Okay, so section 123 of the general project of the application asks for the general project information. So this is just mainly what grant you're applying for, either community or staff grant, how much money you're looking for. Yeah, so we just, as adjudicators, we would like for you to have completed personal and financial information in order to receive the grant. And then for the financials, partnering with a department, staff, faculty member, or student group is required. If you are starting a student group of your own, we would like for you to indicate that in the proposal, as that will impact how you will receive the grant money. Perfect. So the bulk of our time today will be focused on section 4, the proposal, which is project overview, campus relevance, campus population, project partnerships, project planning, implementation, evaluation, and lastly, continuation. So, project overview. This essentially is the abstract of your proposal. A quick overview of your initiative is required. Some tips and tricks for this section is that assume that your reviewers know absolutely nothing. Essentially, as we adjudicate these proposals, adjudicators are not allowed to use outside information based on outside of what is in your application form, essentially, to help us decide. We would like for you to be clear, very descriptive, and some data always helps. So whether that's information, like a stat from a previous survey run on our campus that would bolster your project, that would be great information to have on the project overview slide. So going back to what Kian mentioned earlier about a healthy campus community, you would also indicate in this section, what is your vision of a healthy campus? What area of campus health will your project be targeting? How does it contribute to a healthy campus community? And yeah, any other background information that would be really great for us to know, especially if we're not experts in your field or in your areas. Next up, campus relevance. So the first part of the proposal asks you to describe the value of your idea to our campus. What does this mean? So for this section, the adjudication committee will look at your ability to share what you know about campus through activities, existing initiatives, events, and services. And then we'd ask you to provide a rationale for how it connects with the many strategic plans that we have on our campus. So whether that's like through the SHAPE plan, Rating Past, Present, and Future Indigenous Strategic Plan, Culture of Care, Student Experience Action Plan, just to name a few. We want to understand in your description why your idea is important, how it can benefit our campus community, and also how we will either address a gap or strengthen an asset we already have. In this section, successful grant applicants have linked their idea to a campus health issue and provided their understanding on the topic, shared what they know about campus, acknowledged what exists, but also what might not be working, and how their idea can address a particular issue. It helps us make it easy to understand the who, what, when, where, and why. And yeah, that's a little bit about our campus relevance section. Moving on to campus population. So as you can see on the slide, we've identified undergraduate students, graduate students, faculty, staff. For this section, so continuing on campus population, looking at the different audiences. So we'd really like for you to describe the target audience of your initiative. There are many groups that could be your target initiative. And within these 4 groups, there could be smaller groups. For example, even just indicating undergraduate students as your main target audience, does that mean only first years or only upper years? Grad students or international students? And then for staff and faculty, is it just within your department, faculty, college? We'd like for you to indicate that and then let us know in the rationale why that is so. If your project is for the campus community with direct benefit to students, staff, and faculty, just another indicator to please apply for the community grant, the one that's like up to $5,000. And if it's mainly to benefit, like, looking at our campus as a workplace, so for staff and faculty, please indicate the staff grant, which is up to $1,500. We also require a rationale provided for this section, describing your audience group, as I've mentioned, and why you've chosen this group. So I'll be sharing an example. This came from the same book that the librarians created that Kian mentioned earlier. So they've indicated that their main target audience are undergrads, grads, and postdoctoral students. So mainly, yeah, the student population. And in their rationale, they've taken data from the Student Needs Survey Summary Report and really indicated how within the context of lockdown and the COVID-19 pandemic, how this could bolster the student experience, build resilience for our students in a creative outlet. So it was very clear to our adjudicators what they were trying to hope for in involving students in this project. Moving on to partnerships and collaborations. We're really big on partnerships and collaborations. This section will help reviewers understand the feasibility of your project and if there is interest and support for your idea. The Heroes for Health program encourages you to develop partnerships to implement and sustain your project. Most successful projects have been those with a variety of partners involved. So you might be wondering what a campus partner is. We define that as any member of our campus community who has an interest in your project and can provide support in either project sponsor or in a collaborative, more active role. The level of support agreed upon from the sponsor or the collaborator must be described in the grant application. And funding may be delayed until a campus partner is identified for the project. An example would be if you are requiring space on campus, we kind of require you to have conversations with facilities and operations first and get that approval. Or is it for like within your building, what kind of approvals would you need in order to get the space that you require for your project like approved upon? Yes, that's the word. Okay, so some tips and tricks for this section is, if it's possible, surrounding yourself with diverse collaborators or contributors, and that could just be folks or students, staff, faculty, and how, like, what purpose they'll have for your project. However many you need is based on what you think is needed for your project. Some projects have one key partner, whereas others may require involvement from multiple collaborators. We're looking that you've identified people who have an interest in your work, who are already doing similar work, or that you need approval from, as I mentioned earlier. In this section, we also encourage you to create opportunities to share the work. So for students in our call right now, what happens if you graduate or you can no longer stay involved in your project? Partnerships can help continue that project forward. And also, we would like for you to indicate the level of support that you're receiving from your project partners. Is it active support, so they help you plan things and make things happen? Is it a mentorship role? Or is it a token partnership just to open doors for you and this project? Staff and student engagement, of course, would be really great as an integration throughout the planning and implementation process. All right. So yeah, as I've mentioned, indicate in this section who your partners are, why you're collaborating, what stage your partnership is at, how you're planning to develop it further if needed. Partnerships between students, staff, faculty is encouraged, and diversity in terms of like who is part of this, depending on your project. Sometimes, for the staff grant, for example, you won't really need partnership from students unless it's an indirect goal of the project. So as we've done previously, here's another example from our last project. They've identified that within this, they have created relationships with wellness support social workers, graphic designers to create the visual aesthetic of the book, the UVA Press to create the ISBN and book design, help with the book design, and the copyright office. So the librarian planning group determined that this is what they need. These are the people that would need to be in their corner to make their project happen. A bit more. Moving on. E, I think, is really like the bulk of your project because it's where you get to showcase your project activities. We would like for you to tell us the goals and objectives, like kind of start there. And then in terms of project activities, what is the planning process? Like, are you having focus groups? Are you just doing brainstorming with your group or like your collaborators? When are you going to purchase things? What are the events, things for us to look for? And then the hopeful outcomes of your project should be in this section as well. So section F, project implementation, it's mainly like a check-in, a checklist. Whether you are idea phase, planning and support, implementation, it indicates it in the application form what we mean by each section. We will want to know what stage of implementation your project is at. And we understand that everyone can be in different stages. Perhaps you just heard about the Heroes for Health grant and you're like, I just have this idea right now, putting it to paper, would like some feedback on it. This is also a great space to have that. Or you've been planning this project for a year now and you've heard of this opportunity and you're ready to implement it. As the adjudication committee, we're really just looking for high degree of feasibility of your project. We care about how well you've researched it, how much work you've put into it, and your commitment to it, and not necessarily which implementation stage you're at. Next up, evaluation. This section asks you to share your plan for determining whether your project has had the impact you hoped it would. Strongest applications have provided descriptions of evaluation tools they will use, as well as details of when they will use them. Your plan to share your success is important, as funded projects are asked to provide a report after they're implemented. So if you do receive the grant, usually we would ask for that report this time, but like next year. So like February or March of 2025. Successful applicants have often used multiple tools to monitor and track the success of their projects. It's also good if you indicate when you will collect that feedback. So if your project is more event-based, indicating that, if it will have an event in the fall and the winter semester, and we hope to ask our attendees how well it went like out before they leave, indicating that to us, so then it's clear for us what kind of evaluation you're hoping to do. And lastly, project continuation. So what steps will you take for the continuation of your project beyond the funding period? So some projects have applied for the $5,000, they've received it, and they can run with it for 2 years. However, nowadays we know that $5,000 could run out really fast. And so we're really just wondering if you've thought of beyond, if you have this super cool project, how could we still have it with us until like 2027, for example? Describe the role of your partnerships, kind of going back to that, your project planning activities that can ensure the continuity of your initiative. Yeah. This is also a great spot if you're thinking about longevity, if potentially other grants you could apply for, or bringing it to your department for budget considerations when that time comes around. All right, and then lastly, budget. I'll pass this off to Kian now.
Awesome, thank you. So the budget section of the application includes the cost breakdown necessary to execute your project. So some items to reflect on in regards to your budgetary needs. Have you reflected the cost for all activities? And are your expenses eligible? And note that grant eligibility guidelines are available on our website, and it breaks down in the document which types of costs are eligible and ineligible to put on your budget sheet. Discuss the budget area in relation to implementation and costs, not your personal costs. So it'll be helpful to look at what our current retailers are offering and linking your source so we know that you've done your research and that it's a possibility and feasible within the funding amount. Have you explored leveraging cost across your partners or received financial support for your project? Overall, adjudicators will review costs based on an individual project basis because each project is so specific. Be consistent between your section 1 of your proposal and section 5. And lastly, depending on your initiative, some of these sections may not apply to you in the budget. And lastly, we'd like to share what adjudicators will be looking for when they score for overall impression. So first, we're looking for the quality of your plan to make our campus a better place. So we want to be persuaded why your project is going to make a difference. Your project is reasonable and well thought out. So is this project that we can visualize happening on campus? We're also considering quality versus quantity. We want a well thought out, specific, innovative project. And make sure your responses to the application questions are complete and specific. If you're vague or unclear, descriptions of your projects will be harder to defend because it's harder for us to imagine the project just as you do. Either have your project ready to be implemented, or as Christine said, ensure your plan is well thought out so that we can envision it happening. Even if you're in the planning stages, you've provided all the steps that you need that we know you can get this project started. Your why, what, how, and who are clearly stated. So on application parts 1 to 5, it gives the reviewers confidence that you know what's happening on campus and how your project adds value and that you've done the research to make it happen. And finally, as I said, all sections are completed. So if you have any blank sections that are not completed, your application will not be reviewed. All right, so you successfully handed in your application. What's next? So you will, shortlisted applications will be invited to present at a meeting with the funding partners. It's a short presentation. It should take no longer than 5 to 7 minutes with a little Q&A portion afterwards. Some tips to prepare for this. Think of it as an elevator pitch of your initiative. So it's brief, to the point. Focus on details such as partnerships and longevity of your program. What are some logistical considerations you need to make? And what sets you apart from previously funded projects? These presentations will likely be scheduled between February 20th to February 24th, but of course, we'll let you know if you're one of those shortlisted applicants. All right, and bonus tips for your application. So share your why. We want to know your purpose, your cause, and why your project should exist on campus. As previously mentioned, we recommend you don't use acronyms just because people adjudicating your project might not know as intimately all your partners involved. So it's best to write out the full name of any associations. Review your idea with someone outside of your team. So it's easy to get caught up in the planning and adding in more details, but doesn't make sense. So when you're getting close to the end of your application, we recommend that someone review it, and they might be able to see areas that need more detail or clarification. Awesome. There is just over 3 weeks until the deadline. Heroes for Health has a tight turnaround, and we want you to get your funding as quickly as possible. So it's February 9th, 2024 at 7 p.m.